The story of Gautama Buddha, the man who tried to understand human suffering. There comes a moment in almost every human life when the world suddenly feels strange. A moment when a person quietly asks themselves questions they were too distracted to think about before. Why do people suffer even after becoming successful? Why does happiness disappear so quickly? Why does the human mind constantly chase something more? Why do fear, loneliness, jealousy, anger, and emptiness continue to exist no matter how advanced civilization becomes? Most people ignore these questions because life keeps them busy. They wake up, work, struggle, chase goals, seek approval, and repeat the same cycle every day. But more than 2500 years ago, one man refused to ignore these questions. He abandoned luxury, power, comfort, and royal life to search for the truth behind human suffering. That man later became known as Gautama Buddha. His story is not simply the story of a religious figure, it is the story of a human being who looked deeply into life and discovered truths that still affect humanity today. The story of Buddha is emotional because it reflects the hidden pain inside every human heart. It is psychological because it explores fear, desire, attachment, and the restless nature of the mind. And it is timeless because even modern humans continue to struggle with the same inner battles Siddhartha Gautama struggled with thousands of years ago. A child born into luxury but destined for something greater. Long ago, in the region of present day Nepal, a prince named Siddhartha Gautama was born into a royal family. His father, King Suddhodana, ruled the Sakya kingdom and dreamed of raising a powerful ruler who would continue the glory of the royal bloodline. The palace celebrated the birth of the child with joy, music, and grand ceremonies. Everyone believed the prince would grow into a mighty king, but shortly after Siddhartha's birth, wise sages visited the palace and made a prophecy that frightened the king deeply. The sages said the child would become either a great emperor or a great spiritual teacher who would renounce worldly life forever. The king immediately became afraid of losing his son to spirituality. He wanted Siddhartha to become a conqueror, not a monk, wandering through forests searching for truth. So the king made a decision that would unknowingly create the very future he feared. He decided to hide suffering from his son completely. The king believed that if Siddhartha never saw pain, sadness, sickness, or death, he would never think about spiritual questions. So Siddhartha grew up inside magnificent palaces filled with luxury and pleasure. Beautiful gardens surrounded him, musicians entertained him day and night, dances performed in golden halls, servants fulfilled every desire instantly. Expensive clothes, delicious food, and endless comfort became part of his daily life. The king ordered that no old person, sick person, or dead body should ever appear near the prince. Siddhartha was surrounded by beauty, but he was also trapped inside an illusion. This part of Buddha's story reveals something deeply important about human psychology. Humans often try to avoid uncomfortable truths. Even today, people distract themselves constantly with entertainment, social media, pleasure, ambition, and endless noise because silence forces them to confront their inner emptiness. Siddhartha's palace symbolized the illusion humans create to escape reality itself. But truth cannot remain hidden forever. The four sights that changed Siddhartha forever. As Siddhartha grew older, curiosity slowly awakened inside him. He wanted to see the real world beyond the palace walls. Despite the king's efforts to protect him, Siddhartha eventually left the palace with his charioteer. What he saw during those journeys completely transformed his understanding of life. The first thing Siddhartha saw was an old man. The man's back was bent, his face was covered with wrinkles, his hands trembled weakly. Siddhartha had never seen old age before. Shocked and confused, he asked his charioteer why the man looked this way. The charioteer explained that the man had grown old and that every human being who lives long enough eventually experiences aging. For the first time in his life, Siddhartha realized that youth and beauty do not last forever. On another journey, Siddhartha saw a man suffering from illness. The man cried in pain, unable to control his body. Siddhartha once again felt disturbed. He asked whether sickness could happen to anyone. The answer was yes. Rich or poor, powerful or weak, every human being is vulnerable to disease and suffering. Then Siddhartha witnessed something even more terrifying. A funeral procession carrying a dead body. Family members cried helplessly as they walked beside the corpse. Siddhartha was deeply shaken. Until that moment, death had been hidden from him completely. He asked his charioteer if all people eventually die. The answer changed him forever. Yes, the charioteer said, death comes to everyone. Kings die, warriors die, beautiful people die, rich people die, every human life eventually ends. That realization shattered Siddhartha's illusion of permanence. Everything humans desperately cling to eventually disappears. But during another journey, Siddhartha saw something completely different. He saw a wandering monk walking peacefully with calmness in his eyes. Unlike others, the monk did not appear terrified by suffering or death. He seemed free internally. That image planted a powerful question inside Siddhartha's mind. How can someone remain peaceful in a world filled with suffering? That single question would eventually change human history. The prince who walked away from everything. After witnessing the realities of aging, sickness, and death, Siddhartha could no longer enjoy palace life the way he once did. Music sounded empty, luxury felt temporary, pleasure no longer satisfied him. He looked around and realized that everything humans chase eventually fades away. Wealth cannot stop death. Beauty cannot stop aging. Power cannot eliminate suffering. Inside him, a deep spiritual crisis had begun. One night, Siddhartha silently walked through the palace halls while everyone slept. He looked at his wife Yasodhara and his newborn son Rahula. He loved them deeply, and leaving them behind was emotionally painful, but the desire to understand truth had become stronger than his attachment to comfort. At the age of 29, Siddhartha made one of the boldest decisions in human history. He abandoned royal life completely. He removed his royal clothes, cut off his hair, left behind wealth and power. He walked into the unknown as a wandering seeker. Most people spend their entire lives trying to gain more possessions, more status, and more comfort. Siddhartha walked away from all of it because he realized something most humans fail to understand. External success cannot guarantee inner peace. This movement is one of the most psychologically powerful parts of Buddha's story. Siddhartha understood that a person can possess everything externally while remaining deeply restless internally. Even today, many people appear successful on the outside but privately struggle with emptiness, anxiety, fear, and dissatisfaction. The years of extreme suffering and self denial. After leaving the palace, Siddhartha traveled across India searching for spiritual answers. He learned meditation from famous teachers and practiced severe forms of self discipline. At first, he believed that destroying physical desires completely might lead to enlightenment. So, he pushed himself to terrifying extremes. He barely ate food. Sometimes he survived on only a few grains of rice a day. His body became so weak that people thought he would die. His ribs became visible beneath his skin. He lived in forests, exposed himself to harsh conditions, and tortured his body in the hope that suffering would reveal ultimate truth. But after years of extreme practices, Siddhartha realized something profound. Extreme pleasure had not brought peace, extreme suffering was also not bringing peace. Both were forms of imbalance. This realization became one of the Buddha's greatest teachings. The middle path. Buddha understood that wisdom cannot grow inside a life controlled by extremes. A balanced mind is necessary for clarity. Even today, modern humans often live in extremes. Extreme stress, extreme ambition, extreme comparison, extreme emotional reaction, and extreme attachment to success slowly destroy inner peace. Buddha recognized centuries ago that balance is essential for psychological and emotional well being. The night beneath the Bodhi tree. Eventually, Siddhartha arrived at Bodh Gaya and sat beneath a tree that later became known as the Bodhi tree. There he made a final promise to himself: I will not leave this place until I discover the truth. Then began the deepest battle of his life. Not a battle against another person, not a battle for land or power, but a battle against the human mind itself. According to Buddhist tradition, a force called Mara appeared before Siddhartha. Mara symbolized fear, temptation, ego, desire, doubt, and illusion. Mara tried to distract him with fear and temptation. He attacked Siddhartha psychologically, whispering doubts into his mind. You will fail. You are weak. You are not worthy. These inner voices still exist inside millions of human minds today. Fear, insecurity, overthinking, temptation, and self doubt continue controlling human behavior even in the modern world. But Siddhartha did something extraordinary. Instead of fighting these thoughts emotionally, he observed them calmly without becoming controlled by them. He realized that thoughts constantly appear and disappear like clouds in the sky. A person does not have to become a prisoner of every thought the mind creates. As the night deepened, Siddhartha entered profound states of meditation and awareness. Then, as morning approached, he finally understood the true nature of suffering, attachment, desire, and existence itself. At that moment, Siddhartha Gautama became the Buddha, the awakened one. The truth Buddha discovered about human suffering. What Buddha realized beneath the Bodhi tree became the foundation of his teachings. He understood that much of human suffering is created by craving and attachment. The human mind constantly searches for something outside itself to feel complete. People believe happiness lies in money, status, relationships, beauty, power, or recognition. But even after achieving one desire, another desire quickly appears. The cycle never ends. Humans become trapped chasing temporary satisfaction while inner peace remains absent. Buddha taught that suffering does not disappear by controlling the outside world, it decreases when people understand the inside world, their thoughts, emotions, attachments, fears, and desires. He taught mindfulness, compassion, awareness, patience, and inner balance. He explained that everything in life changes constantly and suffering increases when humans desperately try to hold on to things that cannot remain permanent. This teaching remains deeply relevant today because modern society constantly encourages endless desire. People compare themselves online, seek validation from strangers, overwork themselves for status, and become emotionally exhausted chasing unrealistic expectations. Buddha recognized long ago that the restless human mind itself is often the greatest source of suffering. The teacher who changed humanity. For the next 45 years, Gautama Buddha traveled across villages and kingdoms teaching people how to free themselves from suffering. Kings, poor farmers, merchants, criminals, women, and ordinary villagers all came to hear his teachings. Buddha did not care about social status. He believed every human being had the ability to awaken through awareness and wisdom. Unlike many leaders, Buddha did not demand blind belief. He encouraged people to question, observe, and discover truth through personal experience. This made his teachings deeply philosophical and psychological rather than merely ritualistic. People who met Buddha often described feeling peace simply by being near him. His calmness came from understanding life deeply rather than escaping from it. He had once been a prince surrounded by luxury, yet he discovered that true freedom comes not from controlling the external world but from mastering the internal world. Why Buddha's story still matters today. Thousands of years have passed since Buddha walked across ancient lands, yet humanity still struggles with the same psychological battles. Technology has advanced dramatically, but human fear, stress, greed, loneliness, jealousy, anger, and dissatisfaction still exist. People today are more connected digitally than ever before, yet many feel emotionally disconnected internally. Social media constantly pushes comparison and insecurity. Modern life keeps the mind overloaded with information, pressure, and distraction. Buddha's teachings remain powerful because they address the deepest problems of the human condition itself. He understood that a restless mind can suffer even inside luxury, and a peaceful mind can remain calm even during difficulty. That is why millions of people across the world continue studying meditation, mindfulness, and Buddhist philosophy even today. The story of Gautama Buddha is ultimately the story of humanity's search for peace. It is the story of a man who refused to remain blind to suffering and dedicated his life to understanding the human mind. He discovered that true freedom is not found through wealth, power, or external success. True freedom begins when a person understands themselves deeply. Perhaps the most powerful lesson from Buddha's life is this: the greatest battle a human being fights is not against the world but against the chaos within their own mind. And maybe true peace begins the moment a person stops running from reality and starts understanding it. The prince who had everything realized that the human mind can still remain empty. The man who left everything discovered inner peace. And thousands of years later, his journey continues, inspiring millions to search for something deeper than success, pleasure, and material wealth. If you enjoyed this story, like, share, and subscribe to Echo English for more deep psychological stories, emotional life lessons, and powerful ideas that can transform the way you think. And remember this question: if Buddha could leave behind an entire kingdom to search for peace, what does that say about the things humans spend their whole lives chasing?